Hello, everyone. Welcome back to TFD with Cordy. I can't even lie. It feels wild that we're still talking about the WNBA CBA negotiations. Every day, it's the same question: are we getting a season or are we not? The uncertainty is real, but it's too important to ignore. And today, we actually got some fresh information worth breaking down. A new article just dropped that adds a little more clarity to what's really going on behind the scenes. It's from Alexa Philippou, and it's titled WNBA CBA Negotiations: 4 Ways a New Deal Can Get Done. So let's dive into what that means and why it matters for the league and the players. Here said, as the deadline passed on January 9th, the sides ushered in a period called status quo, where the conditions of the 2020 deal remain in effect. In the 3 weeks since then, the stalemate has continued. The Women's National Basketball Players Association is still awaiting an official response from the league, since sending it a proposal a month ago. And if you remember, the WNBPA sent their proposal over before Christmas, and since then, they haven't heard a single word back from the league. The league believes the proposal didn't warrant a response since it wasn't that different from the past ones the union has submitted, and instead, sources told ESPN it's waiting for the players to submit what it would consider a more realistic proposal. So basically, the league is saying a whole lot without really saying anything at all. Sarste has said, "From the player side, though, we've heard everything. The WNBPA has been very open about their thoughts and feelings around these CBA negotiations. When they felt disrespected by the league's proposal, they said that. When they thought it was just lipstick on a pig, they said that too. They've used social media, interviews, and articles to let fans know exactly how they feel." On the WNBA side, it's been the opposite. We're not getting full transparency. Instead, we're getting little nuggets here and there in articles, almost like controlled leaks. It feels intentional, but it's still vague. They're not outright saying we're rejecting the player's proposal, but that's basically what the tone is. Let's rewind for a second. The WNBPA made their last proposal, and the league's response was essentially, if we give you what you're asking for, this money and this revenue split, we could lose $700 million. Then the players came back and said, we don't believe that. Open the books. Show us the real numbers. They straight up accused the league of exaggerating, even lying. And since then, we haven't heard real details from the league. What's wild to me is how firm the league seems to be right now. They're not budging. It feels like they're just sitting there waiting for the players to bring something else to the table, because the proposal that's already on their desk, they're not even entertaining it. No 30% gross revenue split, no serious consideration, just figure it out. And to me, that's a daring and dangerous stance for them to take. And here said, as the season creeps closer, and with so much to accomplish before the ball can be tipped, the clock seems to be ticking on the two sides coming together on a deal. And multiple sources have told ESPN there's an understanding that the only way to find resolution is to find a compromise. That's literally what a negotiation is, one player told ESPN. Okay. I want to push back on this just a little because I really do think both sides have to meet in the middle. That's how negotiations work. But when you actually look at the 2020 CBA and then compare it to what the league is offering now, it's a huge jump. We're talking about max players potentially making over $1 million. The new minimum salary would be higher than what the max salary was under the last deal. That's not nothing. That's real progress. On top of that, the league is offering a 70% net revenue split. So to say there's been no compromise from the WNBA side feels off to me. They've clearly moved a long way from where they were before. If you're just looking at this from the outside, you'd probably say, wow, that's actually a really strong offer. But the players are still reacting like the league is only giving them crumbs, like it's just some tiny raise and nothing more. They're saying this isn't close to what we want, and at some point, public opinion matters. Right now, a lot of fans are starting to feel like maybe the players are the ones not giving any ground. It really looks like the league has made major concessions, and the question now is whether the players are willing to meet them somewhere in the middle. The article goes on and says that they need to come to a mutual understanding on revenue sharing. And I think that's really the key point. So let me say it again, because we've talked about this before. The WNBA's revenue situation is not like other major sports leagues. It's structured totally differently. The league owns about 40% of itself, the NBA owns another 40%, and then outside investors own around 16%. So it's not as simple as just saying give up more gross revenue like people think. From what we understand, if the league is actually being honest here, and that's a big if, they're basically saying they can't afford to give up that much right now. None of us can see the real numbers behind the scenes, so we don't truly know. But their argument is that the WNBA still isn't massively profitable yet, and that's okay. It's a young league that's still growing. They're trying to protect the future of the league. They're saying we can't hand over more money and risk making this whole thing unsustainable. And yeah, this current popularity surge is exciting, but there's always the fear that it could just be a bubble. Hopefully it's not, but it's something they have to think about.
Here, set another bullet point. Find a middle ground on housing. Team-provided housing emerged as a tension point in negotiations in December 2025. Since the first CBA was ratified in 1999, teams have been required to provide housing. Okay, stop. To me, all this housing talk feels like it's getting lost in the weeds. I'm sorry, but if the entire season comes down to arguing over housing, that's ridiculous. None of that compares to the real issue, which is the revenue split. That's what actually matters. Salaries are going up, and the league has already said they won't provide full housing if pay increases to the levels being discussed. And look, stuff like 10-day contracts, hardship deals, trades, those things happen in every league. There are always edge cases. The league is obviously going to help with housing in certain situations because they have to. But if that's what stalls the season, that's insane to me. It's not that complicated. There aren't that many moving parts here. This shouldn't be the thing that blows everything up. Figure it out. Handle the details, and don't let something this small stop the entire league from moving forward. Look, at this point, said lean into the wins. Much of the Players Association's narrative for months has been the insistence that the league's proposals are so far from adequate as to be insulting. That's not an unusual tact for a union to take in such disputes. But sources outside the WNBPA have told ESPN that the union might benefit by starting to talk more optimistically about the wins it appears to have even before the deal is done. I actually respect that ESPN is finally calling this out because the way the WNBA is covered is still super sensitive. It feels like the second you offer even mild criticism, people jump straight to, you hate the players, or you're anti-women. And that's not what this is. Not at all. You can support women's basketball and still say, hey, some of this isn't being handled well. The reality is, a lot of what's been posted on social media, the statements, the jabs, the subtweets, even dragging NBA stars into it, has left a bad taste in a lot of fans' mouths, and that matters. At the end of the day, both sides are still going to have to work together. The players and the league aren't going anywhere. When this CBA is done, they're still walking into the same office, dealing with the same people, trying to build the same league. So all the name-calling and public shots, that's what gives me pause. I wouldn't want to burn bridges with people I know I'm going to have to collaborate with long-term. And that's why I'm really curious what the narrative is going to be when this deal finally gets done. Because right now, the message from the player side has been, everything the league does is disrespectful. It's slap in the face this, we deserve more that. So if they take a deal that isn't everything they wanted, how do you spin that? Are you still saying it's disrespectful? Or do you suddenly say you love it now? That's the tension. They've gone so hard publicly that I wonder what happens when the dust settles. This isn't just me saying it either. Annie Costabile pointed it out, Rebecca Lobo pointed it out, and now ESPN is saying the same thing. The tone from the player side has been really negative. If that's truly how they feel, fine, but there were better ways to handle it. Or they could have kept it in-house. Feel how you feel, absolutely. But once you publish it publicly, you invite everyone else into it. And right now, it doesn't look great. After they said, key to reaching a successful conclusion in labor negotiation is that both sides feel confident that gains are made. Thus, an effective strategy for the Players Association might be to subtly shift its focus towards the union's victories. And they've already won on a lot of fronts. Like I said, the salaries have gone way up.
Sorry, guys. My voice not good. It's a little frenzy. Okay, and the final key point on how this deal gets done is rebuilding trust. Here said on January 14th, 2020, Commissioner Cathy Engelbert and Union President Nneka Ogwumike sat side by side and announced an 8-year CBA. They both wore blue, Ogwumike in royal blue, a dress, and Engelbert a navy blazer, as they shared the news of their agreement on Good Morning America. Can you honestly see that trust being rebuilt right now? Because I'm not so sure. And that's what I keep coming back to. The players have been going at Cathy pretty hard. However you feel about her, she's made it clear she's not stepping down. So if she really is staying, what does that relationship look like going forward? How do you move past all of this and actually work together after everything that's been said? Then, here said, Union Vice President Breonna Stewart told ESPN she'd like to meet face-to-face with the league's owners, a sentiment other sources have echoed as a potential route to consider. Allowing the key stakeholders to engage in a dialogue and hear each other out directly and not through layers of lawyers and middlemen could be more productive in helping break the stalemate and get a deal across the finish line. Said, at some point, enough is enough, she told ESPN. Personally, I want to be in the room talking about the real stuff happening. These meetings get so sidetracked by the language, verbiage, and context. We're missing the point. So, yeah. So apparently there still haven't been any in-person meetings, which is honestly wild to me. That alone tells you how stalled this whole thing really is. On top of that, Players Association President Nneka Ogwumike did an interview with Time where she made it clear she wants to see more WNBA millionaires. She said the league's December 2026 proposal, where the max base salary is around $1 million with more money possible through revenue sharing, just isn't enough. Her point was that when you look at how much money is actually being made, $1 million is basically just a decimal. What the players want, she says, is a fair share, and to them, that means more than $1 million. And honestly, that just brings us right back to the same thing every single time. Revenue sharing. That's the real issue. Everything else feels like it's in the weeds. If they could figure out the revenue split, or maybe push salaries even higher, maybe that's what finally gets this done. But right now, this thing feels stuck. And I'm not even gonna lie, I'm drained, completely drained from covering this over and over again. Alvo said, I want to get back to just talking basketball, NBA, because my channel not getting views. But this is where we're at. Nobody's really talking. And like I said in my last video, it's time to start worrying. The clock is ticking. There's a lot that has to happen this offseason, and so far, this has been an absolute mess. Tell me what you think. Don't forget, like and subscribe.